Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle, Desrochers, and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans. I have just done an entire intro completely muted, to which I did not realize. So, apologies on that. I'm just going to skip to all the usual stuff I just said and just jump right over to the guest, which is Ron Morehead, who's going to be talking about his new book, Bigfoot Unveiled, which you guys see right over here, I believe. So, apologies on that. And okay, we've got people chiming in the chat room. But just hold off. So let me get to this real quick. We've had a bit of a tech issue for those who didn't hear. Bigfoot Unveiled, very scientific approach, of course, to, I guess, Bigfoot. And Ron has done some, he's a scientific guy. He's done some pretty incredible stuff. And I'm sort of looking forward to hearing what he's got to say. Now, for anybody who can't comment, I don't understand. Lady Spider Witch, I'm not sure why you can't comment. Everybody else, I see it. People are commenting, so I'm just wondering if it's if it's at your end. I actually see all your comments. And no, guys, I'm sorry, I didn't totally. I unmuted, which is the funny thing. So I guess something is somebody's just like playing around with me. But no, sorry. So anyhow, without further ado, I am just going to try to get this sent off. 1 second. With the tech issues comes everything else, which is just being a little bit of a pain in the butt. Okay, 1 minute, 1 minute. There it is. All right. And sent. Oh my gosh. I'm really excited as well. I'm really excited. I see you chatting. I mean, I'm putting up your comments over here. Yeah, I don't know. All good now? Okay, good. Happy to hear that. Oh my gosh. What a crazy start to the show. Now, we do have another show running simultaneously, which isn't supposed to be affecting our show, but I'm starting to think that maybe it is because this should not be happening at all. Anyhow, so, a little bit about Ron. He's been on the show before where we tackled his book, Quantum Bigfoot. And I reached out to him because I saw him on Alaskan Killer Bigfoot. And he really gave a crash course in the whole quantum physics part of Bigfoot. And I was just wowed by what I saw. I'm just like, that is phenomenal. And it was a whole different approach to everything. So if you haven't checked out that archive, and we've put it up a couple times, I think I featured it this time just for people who wanted to go and catch up on the first segment before we actually started this one. But I will have him recap a little bit. So he also has he's a producer of 2 CDs called the Sierra Sounds, Volume 1 and 2, and he did actually talk in great length about the Sierra Sounds. He's also got 2 books called Voices in the Wilderness and, of course, Quantum Bigfoot. So it's fascinating stuff. You guys really have to go check him out on YouTube. Listen to these Sierra Sounds with Ron Morehead because it is pretty wild. And maybe you never know. Maybe you've heard these guys out there somewhere. Okay, good. People are chiming in, just perfect. I know we had a friend staying as a caretaker on a family member's property, and this is probably out in Eastern Ontario, Bancroft area, and he had 100 acres to himself. Pretty intuitive guy. And in the wee hours of the morning, probably at about 4:35 a.m., he started hearing tapping. And unbeknownst to him, nobody was just cutting wood on his 100 acres that morning. So we had just had people on the show who was just like, okay, don't, smack pots and pans together because they take that as a sign of war. And I'm like, what? I've never heard this before. But anyway, I just messaged him. I said, whatever you do, don't start doing this. We're going to find yourself in a heap load of trouble. So anyway, we had a little bit of fun with it, but I think it put him on edge a little bit. So looking forward to the whole scientific aspect of this. And without further ado, Mr. Ron Morehead. Hello.
Hello. Hello. How are you tonight? Or
I'm
I guess it's evening. It's
bit,
nighttime
bit,
here on the East Coast.
oh, bit of a tech issue starting, but as long as we have sound now, this is the most important part is you. So I can ramble anytime. But yes,
It's
we
good
had a
to be
bit of a
good to be with you again.
thank you.
Mhm.
I've really been excited about this because I was just so thrilled when you joined us the first time. And maybe you can recap just a little bit on Quantum Bigfoot. I was trying to give a little rundown about the show. I featured it just so people could go and see it and try to catch up before this segment because I love the entire approach. So before we jump into your newest book, would you mind recapping a little bit on Quantum Bigfoot to catch people up?
Sure. My subtitle to that is bringing science and spirituality back together because quantum physics and spirituality are synonymous, I think, and so does Tesla. So if Tesla thinks so, I'm gonna think so too. Because
Yes.
it gets way out there, when you think of, well, where's God, where's the stars, where's all that stuff? Well, that's spirituality too. A lot of
Right.
religions teach that. So anyway, it gets into the mysteries associated with these beings that I encountered, me and the other guys at the camp, and so many other people have reported those type encounters. So I thought I should write about it because it's just so I got into quantum physics. Al Berry, who was an investigative reporter we took up to the Sierra camp. Well, by the way, for those who don't know, we recorded some Bigfoot creatures up there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, yeah, and you can talk about the Sierra sounds. I touched on that
yeah,
for you as well.
yeah. Well, their vocal ability exceeds ours, and that's been established now by the University of Wyoming and by cryptolinguists from the Navy, and it's just people, if no one can debunk them because they're not debunkable, they're real, and that's
Right.
what amounts to.
I love
Represented
that.
an animal very big, over 8 foot tall, according to Dr. Curley and Dr. Benson at Texas A&M. He didn't do a full blown study though, but he's a sound technician. He said it represented, compared to the human vocal mechanism, comparatively, it was a animal 8'5", he said. So
Wow.
anyway, that was just one little piece of it that they listened to determine that. But they listened to all the tapes, and not all of them, but a bunch of them, and a lot has come of that. I had no idea 50 years ago when I started this, over 50 years now, that it would evolve into something like this. I'd be on a program with somebody like you. It's such a far distance away.
Right. Well, it's
So,
big.
but it answers it. It kind of gets into the science behind how they do what they do. Because a lot of people say they've disappeared. A lot of people say the trackway stopped. A lot of people say all kinds of crazy things, which we had happened to us up there at the Sierra camp. And I kept it kind of close to my chest for a long time. I always did, because Al Berry, who did the investigation up there, he said, "Don't talk about the crazy stuff up here, or you won't get talking anywhere." They put you in the funny farm. So, but
Right.
we had strange noises up there besides just the vocalizations, and strange lights and sounds. Yeah, and
Right.
how does it happen? It has to be. You has to base things on science. There has to be an answer for anything. So I
I
started digging
agree.
into that years and years ago, and
Mhm.
thought I got some answers. I got some more answers in my new book. So
Right, well, and I cannot wait to dig in, so let's put this
uh,
baby up here. I love it.
thank you. That's pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks great. So, I mean, the scientific answers, it's amazing to me. I'm always thrilled when science gets involved with something because it means they're giving it a little bit of validity. They're
Oh,
actually lending a little bit of credence to the fact that maybe you really are dealing with something tangible, something you can actually reach out and touch. And now, of course, with technology, everybody's got a cell phone. People are seeing them more, they're hearing them more. And I guess the big question is, you know, are they a part of our distant past? Are they a species maybe that are undiscovered? I mean, we can lend, you know, we can get into the fact that, okay, a lot of people believe because there's always orbs seen around them and people have seen crafts around them. Do they come through portals, or do they come, there's just a race of extraterrestrials, or terrestrial, but just, you know, out there?
oh, you're hitting on a lot of things there. That's pretty good.
Oh,
Yeah.
whatever you want. Yeah, you start wherever you
Yeah.
like, Ron. Just jump right in there.
Oh, I cover a lot of that in my new book too. How that happens, because I get all the way back in the cuneiform text, which is the oldest written language known to man,
Yeah.
and that's way back in Mesopotamia. The Sumerians transcribed it, and anyway, supposedly it talks about the Anunnaki and
Yes.
gets into really who we are and who Bigfoot might be. So I've kind of got excited about all that because it really fits with our biblical raising that I had too. Except our biblical thing is, well, first of all, the cuneiform text, just about all religions, languages anyway, came up, or biblical scriptures came up through that. In other words, interpretations got changed along the way, and I discovered that, I think. But when you get
Right.
into what the cuneiform text says about about the powerful ones that came down from the stars, and they manipulated the genomes of a different species, and us being one of them.
Yes. Yes.
But there were the bad ones and the good ones. You know, some of them just changed their mind, wanted to be incarnate on this planet, and became just powerful ones on the planet.
Right.
And the other ones that are out, there's probably billions. I don't know how many. They're just nine-dimensional beings, in my opinion. Just
Right.
very, very high-dimensional, high-frequential beings, very high frequency. Where most
Right.
aliens, I think, are in fifth and sixth density. We're in the third, by the
Wow.
way.
Right.
We're in the
Right.
third, and
Right.
we got to go through the third. I think the third. I got a whole chapter on manifestation code of Tesla's too, 3, 6, and 9. What I think that
Yes.
means, and
Right.
it
Do you
gets
want?
pretty.
We
Huh?
can talk about that too if you'd like.
Oh yeah, I could just read my book to you here.
Right.
Well,
Get the book, people.
well, we're here. We're here in a third dimensional environment, a third density, to learn and to
Yes.
experience things. And really, when you learn how to respond to the experience, is what's important, not the experience itself. We've all
Right.
given challenges. All of us have challenges on this planet, and if you don't learn, you got to learn.
Exactly.
Some of us
It's a
die and
state of
never learn.
evolution.
Well, and reincarnation, I may as well
Right.
say that. Multiple embodiments, because
I'm
I
tired, Ron. I don't want to come back.
I, well, you got to, okay, if you respond to everything properly, you probably won't have to, because you're changing your
Right.
frequency. Your frequency is getting
Right.
higher. You also
Right.
stay healthy. You know, that's a good
Right.
part about that too. Too many people live in a victim environment. You know, they think they're a victim of circumstances. Well, no, you can't think that way, I don't think. And
Right.
if we want to change ourselves, which, by the way, energy, which we're all made of at the most minute level, energy,
Yes.
frequency, and vibration. We're energy vibrating at a frequency. And even
Right.
Einstein said, you find the frequency of anything, you can change its matter.
Right.
Wow, that's kind of interesting.
It
How
is.
are miracles done? Because if you can find the frequency of anything, you can change matter. And that
Hmm.
was also established by Dr. Paul Dirac in 1933. He got the Nobel Prize for antimatter.
Hmm.
Antimatter is a direct exchange between energy and matter and energy. They can exchange. And they do.
Hmm.
And that was established again by the Hadron Collider in 2012 in Switzerland.
Right.
So that's when a particle changed into energy. You can't see energy though. You can detect it, but you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So people say they saw one disappear. I think that's the answer to how they disappear,
Right. Well, there's some
because they could.
belief that they're actually a little bit ahead of us, like a few seconds ahead of us as
They're
well.
they're way ahead of us.
Right.
I think they're way ahead. In fact, I think the Anunnaki probably created them from the genome of a troglodyte, a caveman,
Right.
and that's what Bigfoot is a part of. They're not all the same, by the way. All these Bigfoots running around this planet are not all the same. They were not
Right.
created by the same Anunnaki king. I guess I got to say
Right.
it that way. Uh, so they have different attributes depending on what made them and what
Right.
they're all about. But there's also other elements going on that we just don't see. We only see within our light's frequency, and that's our third dimensional density that we're in.
Mm.
We only see within 430 and 770 terahertz. That's our frequency. Everything is frequency. Got to remember that.
Right.
Everything is frequency. All these other
Yes.
frequencies are out there.
Right.
They're out there, and you got to find that frequency to change anything in it.
Right. And I think
It's
it's do you think it's conditioning and everything life throws at you? Because I think we all come here being able to access different frequencies, but we
oh,
just
we
end
can.
up like a hamster on a wheel, and we don't realize that we're actually these beings of light having a human experience and not the other way around.
Right. I think Bigfoot was here before we were, and
Yes.
we're created by a very unique high frequential being. Uh,
Yes.
anyway,
Yes.
made us who we are. We have sapience, we have our intellect, we have consciousness, we have all these abilities that we have not evolved into yet. But we
Right.
need to, and we need to start off though realizing why we're here. We're here to experience what we're experiencing and to respond to it properly with love and compassion. And
Hmm.
once you learn that model and live by it, you're
Hmm.
going to increase your frequency. You're going to
Right.
increase your bodily. However, you can go all the way from the third dimension to the ninth dimension if you do everything right in this embodiment and learn everything, and you can be a master that way,
That's
in
a
my
tough
opinion.
one.
Oh, that would be
That's a tough one,
a
Ron, because we don't know how to play nice in the sandbox in this third density at all. We're just not getting it. And I agree with you. You know, we can't control the situations that are thrown at us, but we can control how we react to those
yes,
situations.
so
And from
right.
what you're saying, that's the lesson. So, you know, we all have
Well,
to.
that's yeah. And if you don't learn it, you'll have the opportunity, maybe, to come back and experience. You pick your family and experience what you're going to experience in that timeline, and respond to it. Excuse me,
That
differently.
that's a tough one. I'm
Well,
tired.
sure, yeah,
I'm
it is,
tired.
but I think I think it's a we're here. We've got this playground to play in here, but we're going to learn how
Right.
to play right.
The constant
And
state of evolution. We just need to realize we're on, on this journey to evolution,
we
and some of
are,
us
and
aren't
there's a
getting
there.
it.
Yeah, Michelle, I think there's a way to do this, and you have to concentrate. I think if it works through your pineal gland, your third eye up here, the eye of Horus, the third eye is depicted in the
Yes.
pictographs all over and different paintings and things. But you learn that connects to the heart. The heart has the brain. It has a
Yes.
brain, and it has to be in coherence. But it shoots information down there because that's the information from the universe. Everything is one up there. Everything is. We're all one.
Yes.
We're all
Yes.
one. Huh. That's hard to
Yes.
understand. We think we're
I'm
independent
well
people,
worn. I'm tired. It's a rough go
and
this time
but
around.
anyway, when you let's see, I get off track here easy because I get jumping from one thing to another. So. But I think a lot of aliens that are here now, like the ones that are seen in the Sondong caves in Vietnam. There's some that's a huge cave system over there. That's they
Mhm.
say some Vietnam men saw a reptilian type hominoid coming out of that cave and shot at it. Shot
Yes.
it. They think they shot it, but it didn't. It went back in the cave, so they didn't kill it. They don't know what they're shooting. They don't know what they're
Right.
doing. Uh,
Right.
and you've got different types of aliens are here. You hear a lot about the grays now, the small grays, the big grays, and so my new book, I get a little into the alien aspect of it because it's now the government says we can talk about UFOs and stuff. Well, I'm going to
Yes.
talk about it because
Let's
I
do
saw
it.
one. I saw one. I saw one right when we were having our Bigfoot activity. So up at the
Right.
Sierra camp.
Right.
So anyway, I know those things exist. At least I couldn't identify it. So I guess it's a UFO to me, unidentified flying something.
Right, right.
Anyway,
I've seen a few, so I'm right on board there with you, and I'm all about the shenanigans talking about it because I think it needs to be said. We've been made to feel like we've been crazy all these years. It's not, you know, it's
mhm.
a balloon. Okay. No.
Yeah, yeah. Roswell was a balloon. We do all know that now,
Right.
don't we?
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Oh, the government. I don't believe a thing the government tells me. I don't even watch the news anymore because it's
Right.
just
Right. It's on a
ridiculous.
need to know basis, and apparently we don't need to know very
You're
much.
exactly right. It's not just
Yes.
need to know. It's if they can control it, if they can control the narrative, they don't want it
Yes.
out. So they'll either make fun of it or hide it or something like that. And that's
Right.
just the way it goes. I mean,
Right. Right. I think
they,
when it's like Bigfoot. They know about Bigfoot. Do you know? I'm not sure if you realize. I remember reading when Mount St. Helens exploded when it went up.
mm,
There were reports of I think there were 2 or 3 military helicopters that were flying out of there with what looked like a Bigfoot on the end of
mm.
like of long tethers, like they were taking them out of there. Not sure if they were, you know, alive or deceased, but they were hauling them out of there. And in places like, for example, you go into, you know, California, Colorado, places where they're very active, you can't kill them. And there's certain parts of these national parks you cannot go into. Even as a researcher of Bigfoot, you cannot cross over into certain areas. They're protected. You could be
That's for
charged for
sure.
actual murder,
I've
right?
heard that story before about Mount St. Helens. I just came
Uh,
out of the Tennessee, Kentucky area for a conference I was doing down there. Went
right.
into what they call the LBL, which is the land between the lakes.
Nice.
It's 170,000 acres, There's like 200 cemeteries there, over 200. And they're
Wow.
seeing the dog man down there. They're seeing Bigfoot. They've got so much of it closed off. They don't want me talking about. I don't want anybody talking about that bad part. But there's people been
Right.
killed down there by the dog
Right.
mans. And I've
Wow.
contacted a good friend of mine, two good friends of mine down there, three actually, went in there with them. And one was a retired deputy who'd been researching this for 30 years.
Wow.
He saw one face to face, and he cries when he talks about it. It's really sensitive about it because it's really frightening.
Oh,
And so that's a weird thing, you know.
that's
'Cause
a really weird thing.
I didn't hear much about the dog man when I was on the West Coast so much, but back here they seem
That's
to
we
be.
have them up north. They have them, like, they're in Canada. They call them
Oh yeah,
wolf
yeah,
people up there. A
yeah.
lot of sightings, and they're just terrifying.
Right. I've been told if I want to come up there that they guarantee I'd see one.
Right?
Oh
Like, are you
man.
feeling lucky? I feel like Clint Eastwood.
I don't know if they're tearing people's arms off. I'm not sure I want.
Right? Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, well, okay. That is interesting, though. It goes to show you, though, that there are many beings out there that we have no idea. And do they come through portals? Have they been here all along? Are they just, you know, beings that have settled here, were obviously here before us, or do they come in? When I look at ancient folklore, we'll use Romania for an example because I've spent some time out there, and they're really hardcore serious about werewolves. Like, you go to a place like Brasov, they'll tell you, oh no, every full moon the wolves come down. Large wolves come down from the mountains, and you can see them in the courtyard, and they're dead serious. And I'm just like, jeepers, there are things out there. This folklore stays with them generation after generation.
There's so many things if we could see outside of our third density. You know, some people
Yes,
can they can see energy better than others, and
yes,
cats can see different frequencies than we can. A lot of animals see differently, but there's so many things around you and I right now. If we could see them, it would really disturb us a little bit, probably. But the biggest thing they play on is your fear. So the hardest thing we have to conquer when you're out in the woods and you're looking for these things is not to be afraid. And that's easier said than done. I got to tell you, because there's just a lot
yeah.
out there that if they do lower their density enough so we can see them in our environment, then it's going to
Mm.
jerk the slack right out of you.
I believe that because, I've worked with some pretty incredible remote viewers in my 20 years of research into high strangeness. And of course, one specifically, and I'll leave that to her if she ever wants to talk about that or not. But dragons have been seen. She's seen
Mm,
dragons, gargoyles. I've had a lot of people say to me, "Why do you have gargoyles at your house?" I'm like, "What do you mean?"
mm.
What do you mean I have gargoyles at my house for real? Dang, I want a gargoyle. Okay. But apparently this is things that, people can see, and it's incredible because these are things that movies are made of.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of strangeness out there, and
Yes.
most people don't want to believe it. They just want to go do their job and come home and eat dinner, eat the roast,
Right?
and
For
not worry
sure.
about all this
You
strange
don't
stuff.
wanna be the roast, to end up with something massive.
Well,
Yeah, like
they don't. It's hard to get anybody to believe and dive into this stuff like you and I are right now.
right.
It's just hard to get them to do it, and that's what I try to do with my PowerPoint program when I do present it at these conferences. Is
Mhm.
I try to introduce it slowly, but I introduce it with the Bigfoot phenomena because that's what
Right.
brought me into it all. But I really
Right.
think that's the smaller picture. I think the
Right.
bigger picture is what's trying to happen on this planet now. You
I
know, the whole
agree.
planet needs to raise its density, and there's too many people trying to kill each other, and the wars going on. There's too many things like that are happening, and that's
Mm.
because of the yin and the yang of it all, I guess, from the negative.
Energy
Yeah.
energy is everything. I think it's important to put things out into the collective consciousness. I think, it works. I've tested it with just random words and, throwing out words that people don't hear very often. I love to tell the story. I'll turn around and say, "Hey, That was swell. Nobody has used swell since like probably the 50s. And all of a sudden I started hearing this word everywhere. And it's like, okay, that tells me that, I've tried that with a few different words. And it tells me that, maybe it's something that works because I'll do it telepathically because, the phones hear everything. So I want to make sure that what's coming back is something that is, you know, has a bit
Yeah,
more chance of being for real, I guess. Oh,
there we
I
go.
can't. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, well, it works. Yeah,
Right.
I just kicked the. I was on a smaller screen here. I got a big
Uh,
screen over here, but if I look at it, you won't. You'll think I'm looking across the
oh,
room.
that's okay. I'm with you. I can play the game. So, no, I love that you are that you're able to jump in with all of that because this is all stuff that we love to talk about. There are
Mhm.
things going on, and Tamara makes a good point on her comment when she says we've been told we have a thinning of the veil. So I believe this means that maybe they are able to use portals easily. We're being able to see these things, or is it maybe that our dimensions are just crunching down a little bit, and
Mm.
we're seeing through everything with ease,
Yeah,
blending in.
we are. That's the Aquarius that we're coming into. I think that's what the
Right,
2012 Mayan calendar was all about. Everybody thought it was the end of the world. I never did
right.
think that. We're coming into
Yes,
enlightenment, and it takes programs like yours here to enlighten people with what's really going on, and they can take it or leave it, as you know, and
right.
that's what I say about my stuff. You can take it or leave it, but I try to base what I'm saying on science that I've dug into,
Yes,
and some many people just don't want to dig deep enough, like getting into the cuneiform texts and realizing just how things really happened. In the
right,
Mesopotamia with the Sumerians, Babylonians, and all those people, because that fits right into
right.
biblical narrative too. Yet
Yes.
it's really stretched out. We're talking about people living a long, 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 long time. We don't live
Oh,
that long.
yes.
We only
Yes.
live a little 100 years now. We're lucky. I feel like I'm
Yes.
100 years old already.
I know. And we're just babies compared to some of these people. I think the ancient people had it right. You get into different cultures and like our indigenous people, for example, with their oral history. They existed and coexisted with these beings. They were well aware of them. They still talk about them. Um, and when you factor that in, you have to think there's something to it. They've been around, these beings like Bigfoot, they've been around all this time, all over the world, because you have it in the oral history of the people who were there at the time. And people are talking about their lineage and their ancestors. They still talk about it.
And that's the big deal, because that's where the skeptics come in. Well, there's no body. You know, they've been around all this time. How come there's no body?
Right,
Well, again,
right,
if the government can't control the narrative, whoever's in charge is the government. I mean,
right,
that's all the way back to uh,
right. Yes,
Constantine, 326. When he
sure.
formed the Nicene Creed. Yeah, he only allowed
I'm
four
with you
books.
on it. Yeah,
Only allowed four books in the Bible. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's what everybody had to live by, which is nothing wrong with that, except there's so many, 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 many more they found.
I'm a bit of a Gnostic, so
Yeah, okay.
I
We're
mean, I go way back.
yeah. All
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Well, you got the Book of Mary. You got the Book of Thomas. You got those different books
many good ones.
and the Book of Enoch is one they never would canonize because it went so far out of
I
their
know their narrative,
paradigm.
right?
They want control, and that's what the governments are all about, is control.
Well, I think Enoch was your first abductee donor.
Yeah, it's first
Was it donor?
first one,
So
first recorded one anyway. Yeah.
exactly.
Uh,
Exactly. So there is a lot of things that come forward, but I think it's great. I love that you have this scientific approach, but yet you're so open-minded about all of it, the
well, like
whole
uh, well, like I
thing.
say, to anybody, if parachute only opens It only works when it opens. So
Right.
if you're gonna jump out of it, you're gonna jump into this, you better make sure your parachute's open because you gotta take the red pill or the blue pill, one or the other, and jump in or just stay
Yes.
simple.
Yes.
And so many
I
people just
I
want to stay simple. They don't want their brain to burn.
right.
They don't want to think about it.
Well, we've been conditioned. You don't want to go there. A lot of
Ah,
us are happy in our world.
good good word. I use that conditioned a lot in my book because that's the word.
Yes.
We've all been conditioned from the time of birth to accept this is what's truth. This is what's
Right.
real. Here's
Right.
the thing that you got to stay in. No, you can't think that. You can't think that. You got to believe this.
Right. Right.
That's what you got to step away from. Not away from, but add to it because quantum physics doesn't do away with Newtonian physics, which was the three-dimensional stuff,
Mhm.
but it
Mhm.
adds to it. It rides on the back. Like what was it? Edgar Mitchell said it takes quantum and classical sciences together to have clear perception.
Right.
So you got to put them both together to have clear perception. I like that statement.
Right.
Just a good
Right.
one.
But I again, I like it. It's sort of like a double-edged sword, a clear perception. So it leaves
Yeah.
a door open for a really wide variety of
I
perceptions,
like,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I like to tell people or ask people to think of the end of the universe.
Right.
How far is it to the end of the universe? Because in classical science, everything's measurable, predictable, and material or physical, and you can measure how long it takes an apple to drop through all that stuff. But
Right.
in quantum science, you can't because it's
Right.
unpredictable, and it's all well. I don't want
Right.
to fall off the edge here, but
That's okay, just
nothing,
go, man. I'm with
nothing,
you the whole way.
nothing is really real until it's observed. And
Yes.
that's a hard one to get your head around because we think we're looking at something right now, but we're making it.
Right.
Light
Right.
only travels so fast.
Right.
We
Right.
live in that frequency of light.
Right.
Anyway, it's exciting
So
stuff for me.
so what do you think when primatologists come forward and talk about Bigfoot with their
Primatologist.
yes, with their
Well,
ideology as to who they or what they are?
it depends on what their ideology is. I
Yeah.
think they were created prior to Homo sapiens,
Right.
and they were created from a troglodyte, probably or maybe a gorilla. I mean, a ape.
Right.
Uh, some of them are red-haired, long arms, all that stuff. But
Yes.
that kind of gives them a camouflage look too, if you think about it, because people see them, they think, well, I saw an ape, or I saw
Mhm.
something like that.
Right.
And anyway, yeah, like depends on what way they're looking at it. I think that humans were created, and I think they created us so unique that that's why they cut our telomeres down so we couldn't live as long because
Right.
we were going to get too wise like the old ones
Right.
did,
I
and too
know.
smart, and we would evolve too rapidly probably. But
Right.
we're getting there. We're getting there. We're learning how to open our minds. And once you get that heart connection with the pineal gland, that's that
Mhm.
feeling. It's a feeling that you get. But that has to be in coherence with up here, the outside brain that we've been conditioned with. Because if the heart says go that way, but your conditioning says no, no, there's somebody over here or something over here. You got to
Yeah,
go.
that's really tough because,
That's
I
very
think
tough.
it's like magnets that just can't, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
it's
that's that's what you
it's
have to learn to do,
difficult.
though. Is go by
But
our
do you
heart
ever feel
feeling.
like we as the common folk have to do it the hard way? I think you have people in this world who have been shown and given the secrets, or they've taken the secrets of the old mystery schools and so on, and they're well aware of how things work. When you sack the Library of Alexandria, for instance, you're going to get a whole lot of really good information there, among other ancient libraries. Let's face it, everything's probably sitting in the basement at
Mhm.
the Vatican. Kudos to them for taking it, saving it, but not so much for not sharing it. But what I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make is we have to start from scratch as people. We don't get that edge. It's one of those things that you would almost hope that somebody would say in school, hey, you are these incredible beings.
Yeah,
In some parts of the world, they teach you how to meditate. You start your school day in meditation. Um,
that's right.
and we're just sort of like green, kind of going, we can't remember anything, and we're not getting the edge to jump on it. Some of us are, some people really struggle just to figure it out.
Oh, yeah, and I don't know that I have, but I know I believe the chakras are there, we have to
Yeah.
line them up to balance them, which goes right up there, and you learn that it takes a long time. I'm certainly not there, but I know
Mhm.
other people are, some people are, but that's
Mhm.
because they spend a lot of time learning.
Right.
It's a challenge. We're
Right.
not gifted, I'm not.
Right.
I'm just open-minded, and I think that's important
But
because
that's how you
that tradition.
start.
Yeah, that's you gotta start by opening that box that you've been trained in, uh,
Right. An
and letting other
open-minded
things
scientist, I like that.
mhm.
You know,
I call myself a citizen scientist,
yeah, I love it, but it's still, your mind still works the same though. I mean, and you have to have the logical side of it. I'm a firm believer in it. Like I say, when science is even interested, this is always fascinating to me. Um, so do you think I mean, I think your work in all of this with Bigfoot has brought the science community on board to have a more serious look at it. You're not just, I don't want to make this sound disrespectful. I don't think there's any way of putting it, but there are a lot of people out there, for example, who go looking for Sasquatch or cryptids and ghosts and etc. And there's a lot of people out there that do it. And I think academia on not just the high strangeness field, but even archaeology, different things. There are people out there who are really good at it, but they don't have that degree, so they're not taken seriously.
Mm,
It's like one of those things to have science or people take interest in what you're doing because you put your research in a way where they're like, you know what, this guy's onto something, and we need to take a serious look at it.
that's nice of you to say that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's true. So
Well, that's what
it's true.
Al Berry, the guy that we took up there in, 1972 at our camp, he was determined to find who was hoaxing us because he couldn't believe the story, and, he couldn't find anybody. Of course, we're 8 miles in the wilderness, we're 8,400 feet in elevation, the camp is, and it's quite an
Wow.
imposing area to get to, so, but
Right.
he went through our bags when we was out walking around. He did everything trying to figure out how anybody could be pulling this off, and, he said, "Whatever you do," he had a master's degree in science, by the way, so just have to stay with science. So that's what I remember a lot about Al. He passed away in 2012, but he taught me a lot of things. He said, "Main stay with science," but he was classical science. He couldn't get into quantum physics, but none of us did, and we didn't know what we were dealing with up there at the time. We didn't know.
Right.
We
Right.
just knew some kind of gorilla got loose, a family of them. So
Right.
it was pretty exciting, really, and
Right.
uh, yeah, that's what we have when we get older is our memories and get to do shows
Right.
like this and talk to other people about it. And hope we can change somebody's life for the better. That's all I want to do at my age is just make things better.
Right. Well, you're leaving your mark without a doubt. You're leaving your mark, which is great. Your research is leaving its mark. Do you think people need to fear these beings?
I think you keep your guard up, but know who you are as a human being and what's been given to you in your embodiment.
Mhm.
Know that and don't be afraid because they feed on your fear. Whatever you give out is what you're going to get back. A
Mm.
lot of these people are calling those things in, not even realizing it.
Right.
Uh,
Are they
just because
telepathic?
well, are we?
We're capable. Yeah.
We are. Yeah, and they are
Yeah.
too, yeah.
I'm just
They
trying
fi
to
all they
figure out
gotta
how
do
far advanced they are, you know?
yeah, well, they're not all the same. I think a lot
Right.
of them have
Like people.
crossbred with indigenous people too, which means they have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So, if they've crossbred, that would dilute them down like the Patterson film. I think that's a female that's been diluted down. You see these tracks, a lot of them are that way because they're crossbred with indigenous people over the eons of time, and
Mhm.
they're just not the full-blown Bigfoot.
Right.
Well, we seem to all categorize them all in one big box. So yeah, that's a Bigfoot. That's a Bigfoot. If they don't have a
Uh,
footprint like that, it's not a Bigfoot. They don't look like that, it's not a Bigfoot, you know?
Right.
Oh, there's so
Right.
many strange things on this planet.
Stereotypical stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
and a lot of them have been given attributes that we'll outshine them if we ever evolve into what we really are as human beings. So what I tell people when they go out in the woods is know who you are and respect who you are as a human being, and
Right.
that'll get rid of the fear. A lot of times that'll like chase the fear away, and then you won't have an encounter because they feed on your
Right.
fear.
Right.
And,
Right. I growing up in the North, I mean, we've seen and heard all kinds of things. And, you get mixed feelings because I have a friend who's, they know people in an area and there's like a family of them and they're
mhm,
spotted fairly regularly. And they don't
mhm,
seem to mind the family being there. The family will leave apples or they'll leave, vegetables.
yeah,
Like they'll just leave things out there, and they're like, "Well, we don't really know what they eat. Hopefully, it's just not meat." Like, obviously, it's not people because we're still here, and they know they eat meat, but the vegetables and the fruit get taken pretty regularly. So they must have a bit of a hankering for a little bit of that as well, but I don't know, like you hear about people saying, "Oh no, we see them on our property all the time. They come close to the house." Um, I think if I looked outside and there was something that big staring back at me, I would have a stroke. And I'm pretty fearless, but that would pretty much do it for me.
well, what I say, there's so many different reports. I've been doing this for over 50 years now.
Right.
And so many different aspects of these things. They're just different types of them, and I relate that all back into alien intervention, into the number of different
Right.
species on this planet, and what aliens did it, which ones did, and
Right.
what attributes did they give them. If we were given special attributes, we were made in the image of a very high frequential being, and
Yes.
we need to understand that and how special we are and what we can do
Right.
as human beings and grow into it through meditation. Like you said, I wish our schools taught meditation like you said this other schools do in different countries. 'Cause,
Yes.
you gotta get that third eye up there going. Learn
Yes.
that's the receptor, right? I think that's the receptor. It's made just
Yes.
like a regular eyeball, except we don't need light to see.
You're right. Right. No, I agree. I think if we can evolve to a certain point, then we can, communicate with many different beings that are, on this planet at least. I mean, dimensionally, interdimensionally. You
Yeah.
you read about it all the time. I think you just have to be open to it. I think with these beings, there's just so many questions. Like, how have they remained hidden for the most part? I mean, they've obviously we've got, government and military. They all know where I'm sure a lot of these beings are. A lot of diehard researchers who are out in the field regularly would know where to find them. You would know where to find them. Some of us would just happen onto them with a big, oh my gosh, what the heck was that? You know. Um, so how do you think they've been eluding us all this
Well,
time?
they find you, I think, unless
Right.
it's just an accident, because it's all about your frequency if they wanna join
I
with it,
see.
and
That's
that's
interesting.
how they, entangle you quantumly, and can mind
Right.
speak to some people because they're able to do that, and I say they, I still, have a tendency to say it like that because I don't wanna put them all in one category.
No.
Some of them are vegetarians, some of them are omnivores. I think what we had at our camp were omnivores. They ate our meat that we left out. They'd eat whatever we left out as long as it wasn't bad food. We
Mm,
we underestimated what we thought thinking of some whatever they are, they're like a bear. We left
right.
out some tainted meat, which was up there for a couple of weeks in one of our barrels. We thought, well, yeah, what did
Right.
give us? They buried it. We found a certain hand.
So they're smart.
Well, they only want good food, so if you're gonna give
Well,
them
I don't
something good to
blame
do,
them.
that's the way ours were anyway, and there's a family
Right.
of them up there, and, they dealt with
Right.
us, they didn't eat us, they didn't carry us away, I think they were trying to communicate something to me on that 2nd CD that I produced, when I was
Mhm.
yelling back at them, and I was trying to mimic them, and I think they thought that was funny because I think they thought I should understand them. They slowed their vocalizations down according to the linguists that listened to them and studied them. He says the
Right.
same vocal mechanism did the same ones from a couple of years before.
Right.
but the sound was different, and there was actually you could feel projection to me.
Mhm.
We're outside the shelter, and what a night that was!
Right.
But just me and my good friend Bill McDowell were there, and it was just I thought they were gonna let us ride on their shoulders that night. Let us see the
I
forest.
What an incredible experience, though. Any way you look at it, it's just
That's the night we both saw one too, yeah.
right. And you could hear them and they're communicating with you. And,
Mhm.
it'd be so fascinating to be able to know because they will communicate back and forth with one another. It'd be so interesting to hear what you were saying
Yeah.
about you guys. you
Yeah,
know?
that was also reported in John Green's book, The Apes Among Us, from, Albert Osman's, experience in Toba Inlet, Canada.
Mhm.
Uh, he said they were chattering amongst themselves, and he wrote about that in his book when he interviewed him in the '50s, early '50s. It was done in
Right.
1924, though, the same time Fred Beck shot one supposedly at Mount St. Helens.
Hmm.
So there's a lot, but I went up into Toba Inlet and researched all that. So me and, Peter Byrne and Al Berry and,
Yeah.
photographer.
Right.
Just, interesting stuff. I mean,
Right.
but anyway,
Um, Catherine says, Ron, as you were mimicking them, their voices got so excited. What a thrill to witness
y
that.
yeah, yeah,
You
everybody
know?
was thrilled then.
I
The thing
I
is,
guess
you
so.
know, what I gotta say is I didn't have any fear at that time. Some people say, "Oh, I'd have been out of that place." You can't just go out of that place. I mean, my gosh, you got 8 miles walking through the forest in the night. You're not gonna do
Right.
that when there's something out there big like this. And, one of the guys who got scared off to start with, he wouldn't go back, but he left the next morning. I mean, he wouldn't go back.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, it was a exciting night, but fear, that's the thing you gotta learn, uh, learn to
The
control your fear. You have nothing to fear, there's nothing to fear. Whatever happens to us as humans is gonna be okay, even if it
right.
hurts. It's like a
Did
like a kidney stone, sometimes it'll pass.
it's gonna hurt, but it'll pass.
Ah!
Oh, it'd be a big stone, man. Oh my gosh. Well, plus they like to toss those things. Well, speaking of stones, it really hurt. Um, when you guys like, did you obviously you slept that night? Like, how long were you guys out there? Like, did you find them coming closer when you guys were
What we
trying to
learned, what we learned in the past, this is 1974 when they started talking to me and saying something. Uh, never know what they're saying, but it is a language by the human definition of language.
right,
Uh, by the way, Philip Lieberman, this is what I put this together too in my new book. I'll give this out right now. Brown University, Philip Lieberman, cognitive research scientist, and taught at Brown University, said only humans have the vocal mechanism on this planet have the vocal mechanism for articulated language like we're doing now.
right.
Dolphins don't do it. No, birds don't do it. Nothing can do that
Yeah, birds don't
with
have
all
voice
these
boxes.
different words that we have that we can make sounds. Nothing can
Right.
do that on the face of this planet. But he's wrong. Bigfoot can do that. These things we dealt with do that. They have a language. I'm not sure all of them do because I'm not sure that some of them haven't been so diluted down from crossbreeding with indigenous people that they've not kept that language thing going or
Mhm.
that at all. I don't know.
Right, right. It's
I just,
fascinating, though. It really is.
yeah,
Tamara says it's been said that they use native words when talking.
yeah. I've heard that a lot that they do, and there's that samurai cry, which that's the night I saw one, by the way. When that samurai cry came down from behind me and shot down through the trees to the other two. I think it was an adolescent and a mother
Mm,
down there.
right,
But yeah, I've heard they do, and I don't know native languages, so I can't really say. But I've
right,
had a lot of people tell me they hear native languages in there, or
right.
they've heard some.
But it would be fascinating to have that same sort of experience maybe from the native people, of the area, right? Because the indigenous know, I mean, they have certain names for them. They know the characteristics of the ones within their areas. You see a lot of that. Oh, who
Mhm.
was it? So we had somebody on the show one time, and they were talking about that, and they said it was a whole different experience being there and experiencing it with, an indigenous person who grew up hearing the stories within, their community about these beings. I'm sure Alaska's got all kinds. We know that from, the show as well, Alaska Killer Bigfoot. I mean, they were pretty traumatized when you got through with them, Ron, I have to say. You know? I
Yeah,
think
it
it
was
just showed them a
interesting.
whole new aspect of what the heck just happened to us.
Well, they had that psychic up there got ran off. There's one guy wouldn't stay there with his dog. He left because there's something real up
Yes.
there. I mean, there was something really still there.
Yes. Right.
Uh,
I I think the
so there's
whole
nothing.
area is though,
Well, that whole
right?
area there, yeah, a lot of Alaska. I had a guy in a board meeting
Yeah.
one time. I was in Canada, offshore thing, and uh, he suit and tie. He once he found out I had this interest going on. This was years ago. He said I could take you to a spot up Fairbanks where I saw one disappear. That's the first I ever heard of that. So I kind of put that on the shelf with all the other strange things, and I didn't throw it away. I
Right.
just kept it on the shelf.
Right.
And then later
Right.
on, you put it together. You put all the stories together. Like another one, I got a whole chapter on trees, how important trees are to these things because we're destroying the planet with clear cutting trees. And I
Right.
saw where up there in Portlock, where I flew over the helicopter quite a bit and looked at it, and they had really over timbered it a long, long time ago. You could see the new growth, but there's some old trees there that are really big.
Right.
And I think they over timbered it. They overfished it from the pictures I saw. They were overfishing it too, and they were mining it. So you put all those things together, and these
Right.
things are there. They're encroaching on their area and messing it up. So they come out and start screaming at you, and you start shooting at them. Well, they're probably going to tear an arm off or something, and not like you. And that's why
Right.
they abandoned the village in 1949, 1950, right there. They want to
Right.
reestablish it. That's what the Killer Bigfoot was all about. They have not done that yet,
Bad
though.
idea.
They
I
said, "What do
know.
we do?" And I said, "Well, come back here without the camera people, just 3 or 4 of you, and just try not to be afraid,
Right.
because they're here. They're here.
That's a
That's
big pill
hard.
to
That
swallow
it
because
is. Yeah, it
you're
is.
on their territory. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're getting into a lot of these forested areas, I mean, okay, let's put aside all the parts of the world, including Alaska, that have these power spot triangles and that changes the energy dynamics considerably as to what's coming in and out and so on, right? And
Mhm.
they're all over the world, right? But I think when you're looking at dense forests, we in areas that we have never been like discovered, like cave systems, for example,
Mhm.
it wouldn't be hard for them, like putting portals and such aside, I don't think it would be hard for them to disappear. I don't think it'd be hard for anybody to disappear if you could survive in that environment.
Uh, there's a theory that they go underground. Uh, they do that, and either in a cave system or through a system of the we have yet to define. But
Right.
even you get the Skinwalker Ranch, they claim a portal there, and Bigfoot has been seen coming out of that. And then you got the
Right.
big wolf that they tried to shoot that time. Have you ever read the book? That's
N
interesting.
no, I've
Well,
talked
those
to people who
portals.
have been on Skinwalker Ranch, yeah,
Well, people used to make fun of the portal idea. NASA's been studying portals for years.
for
They
sure.
exist.
There's a
They're
reason
magnetic.
Bigelow was there, people.
Well, that's why some
With
people,
respect.
yeah,
Yeah.
ask me some really ridiculous questions sometimes, and they just do a little research. They just find the answer real quick. But not that
Yes.
I shouldn't say I don't. I appreciate people contacting me all the time, but
Yes.
it's just
Yes.
keeps me going. I
Yes.
don't work. I don't work anymore. All I do is run around and do this stuff. So
That stuff's
it's
great,
fun.
though. It's the
Yeah.
passionate stuff. It's awesome. But
Well,
I
that's what.
agree.
Yeah.
It is fun. Learning is always fun. I love to
Yeah,
research. I do. I research something every day because I just love it. I can't get enough of it. Um, but no, I mean, you have, military, NASA, you have all these organizations that are miles, ahead of us. There's a lot of stuff that they do know. And the fact that they are, exploring everything up there, and you've had remote viewers look at it. There's a lot of people that know what's going on up there, and there's a lot of places like that. I mean, a whole area. It's not just Skinwalker Ranch. There's a lot
Right.
of other
Mhm.
ranches up in that area who are experiencing, equal, like Blind Frog Ranch up there. They're one of
Right.
the neighboring
Yeah.
ranches. They have a lot of crap going on up there too. It's terrifying
Yeah. Yeah.
what they go through up
Mhm.
there. But
Mhm.
you know,
All
yeah,
interesting stuff.
right?
I
It
think it's all
is.
coming. We're all being enlightened a little bit now with all this information. And I
Right.
think it all started, when we all had to start wearing masks, we had to figure out something else to do.
Right. Right.
We're
I know.
trying, yeah,
Question. What was the most surprising thing you discovered while researching this subject? Tamara, right on
surprising.
point.
Um, well, not besides the Sierra camp where we were encountering these things, it was probably Peru, Bolivia, that area down there. Seeing the megalithic structures, seeing the alien. Like behind me, you see a skull. See that skull? I guess I got
Yes.
that's an exact duplicate of one of the elongated skulls we demummified down there in Paracas, Peru. And it has
Mm.
a single parietal, just one skull.
Yes.
We have a sagittal suture. It's not
That's right.
human. And and then we think they were responsible for the megalithic structures and the pre-Inca people, I'll say, because I see so many
Hmm.
sections. Look what the Incas did. They built these stonework. They didn't have the tools to do that stuff. Incas
No,
couldn't have done that.
no,
And they don't
no.
try to take credit for it, but a lot of people give them credit because they were down there. But
Right.
I went down there twice, 2 different times on these research missions with 2 different scientists to, examine those skulls, but my thought was there was a crumb trail of those elongated skulls led up to North America here, where a lot of people reported, elongated skulls on Bigfoot, sagittal crests. And, there
Hmm.
is. The Incas warred with the Mayans and the Aztecs in
Hmm.
Central America. The Mayans have stories about warring with the giants in the north, and that took me up to Lovelock Caves. I've been in Lovelock
Right.
Caves four times, trying to
Hmm.
get to, but they've taken all the artifacts away that would have suggested anything a giant. Uh,
Mm.
so that's what
Right.
happens.
Do you
And
think that these guys could have been those giants?
which guys? These guys here
Yeah,
in
our
Skull?
big no, no, but there's a lot of different stories from South America all the way to North America fighting, well, probably worldwide, fighting with giants. You know,
Mhm.
do you think that Bigfoot falls into that, or do you think we have an entirely other race of giants?
I think it could be another race, different genomes.
Me too. Yeah,
And you get the Kandahar giant, over in Afghanistan,
yeah. Oh, yes, yes,
and
yes,
that's real. I mean, I believe that to
yes.
be real.
Yeah, so do
Uh,
I. I had to ask because there's some people who are just like, "Oh, no, they're all Bigfoot." I'm like, "Nah, they're not all hairy, though." They're really
That doesn't fit
I
with me at
always
all because, you get into the Yeti and, Nepal, you get into, different
Yes,
different
yes.
ones,
Right, right,
and they have different attributes, but they've all evolved differently and
right,
given different attributes, depending on what made them. What 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 high dimensional entity made them? Because you can create things when you're ninth dimensional being. That's when you're a
right.
creator being, and, you can
Yes,
also create in the sixth dimension. Huh.
right.
We live in the third, we go to the sixth, then it gotta elevate yourself to the ninth. Huh. 3,
And
6,
we keep
9. That
going.
rhyme.
Right.
I
I
had an
have to
upside
agree.
there.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I have to agree with you on Peru, though, because everything I think it has a lot more going on with it than people realize. That people look at South America and they
Mm.
think, "Oh, Mesoamerica, no, this stuff's only about 5,000 years old." It's like, no, there's stuff that just is phenomenal. I mean, I'm trying to remember the name of the town. Have you heard of this story? when a natural disaster occurred, a reptilian being helped the entire town go underground, and they were down there for decades, apparently, like years and years and years and years. He educated them, he cared for them, and there was a statue of this reptilian being in the town square today.
Hmm.
I have to find that information. I can send it to you. I read
Yeah.
that and I thought that is fascinating because ancient people were very comfortable working with, like when you talk about, the skull, they were very comfortable in working with these otherworldly, beings, whether they were here before us, whether they spoke about the beings from the stars. Let's face it, the ancient emulated what they respected or what they saw. So you
Mhm.
see all of these petroglyphs, hieroglyphs, all these ancient monuments. It starts from somewhere. And whether they were assisted in building them, or whether, which brings us to this question for Tamara again, do you believe there was a large race which was responsible for the very large monuments? You know, were we looking at other races who were doing this, or were we being assisted and taught to do it ourselves?
I think
Go
we're
for it.
giants on that. Well, I got a chapter on sound frequency too, because sound, I think they elevate things by sound frequency. If you find the frequency of anything, you can change its matter, and that's how I think they manipulate the huge boulders that you see in Olentan
Levitation.
Pandu and these different places. Yeah, levitation, and yeah,
Right.
I just
Right.
because now you find out sound does a lot of things. If you find the right frequency, you change matter. Ah,
Right. It's
I,
true. Well,
I,
look at
I
is it the Coral Castle in Florida? Is that what it's called? The Coral
yeah, yes,
Castle.
yes.
And if he said he always maintained that he built it with sound,
He
with
had to.
sound wave.
That's how you do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can. Yeah, and the monks in Tibet, they not Tibet anymore, but
They
they,
can
they
bounce around like it's nobody's business.
well
Like,
they got these horns. And you get the right frequency and the right rhythm going, and the boulders will move. You
right.
can elevate things. It's just
See,
amazing. Well, we got so much more to learn, and so much there is to learn about all these things. And
right.
I I
Right.
I get frustrated because some people just want to turn it off.
It's a
But
really tough pill to swallow for some people. All right.
sure it is, yeah.
I
But
mean,
if we go back to basics, know who you are as a human being, the
right.
attributes that you have, and dominion that you've been given on this planet, you can
Hmm.
learn how to command things. Even
Right.
Jesus, the master,
Right. Right.
talked
So
about how
basically,
we have.
it's manifesting,
Well,
manifesting your reality.
you gotta know it and feel it. You gotta know it, and you get the feeling in your heart and get it into you. This brain will talk you out of so much stuff, though. This conditioned brain will talk you out of so much stuff. Just the biggest block up there.
It's true. You're not wrong.
It controls our bodily functions, and
Right. I know.
but
That's why people argue with themselves, like for real. "No, I'm not gonna do that." Well, why not? It's the conditioning. Just let it flow. Just go with it. I'll often try to tell people, just go with it. Just don't think about it. Like you don't just throw caution to the wind, Michelle. Yes, yes, you do. I do it all the time,
yeah.
you know. But I think it makes for a happier individual. Um, so in the state of evolution, when you're dealing with, I mean, maybe not just Bigfoot, maybe Dogman, maybe these other cryptids that are laying low, you know, I mean, how long do you
Uh,
think an average Bigfoot would last, for example?
oh boy.
Do they, I know, but do they have, I mean, if let's just say, going back to vocalization, they're much like human beings with respects to having vocal cords, being able to do tone, and no one else on the planet other than humans can do this. So if they're partially human, like, are we seeing some of these things last a really long time or not so much? Sometimes the
Well, it
bigger
depends
you are, right?
if they are interdimensional, being able to go out of our third dimensional density and get into
Right.
over the state. They're they're uh, they're aged. They wouldn't age like we do,
Okay.
and they could. Because time don't exist out there like we perceive it here in a linear time. So
Right.
that's kind of important to know too. Uh,
Right.
so if they go through portals, if they get out of our environment like that, once they're in our third dimensional environment, they have to live by our third dimensional rules
Hmm.
until they get out of it. So
Right.
that's
Which sort of makes me wonder because there's, some people will tell you, no, we can't, we could never go through portals, like molecularly speaking, right? Or which would be like, okay. But if you're dealing with the whole density thing, dimensional thing, that means you could do it with a mere thought.
actually,
So it could be done.
yes, yes, you can.
Right.
Yes, wait, let's. You want to disappear right now?
Right.
Got
Wait,
to
let
find the
me
right
try.
frequency.
Let me try. If I don't come back, just keep going, Ron.
Turn it-
Right.
We just got to find the frequency. Everything is frequency.
Right.
You can
Right.
change your energy, your mass. You can change your mass into energy via
Mm,
frequency.
right. Right.
That's pretty cool.
Mm,
That's pretty cool. That's a physics. That's law in
right.
physical world. It just can't be seen like Newtonian physics says. We can't see. And some people say, "Well, I'm not ever going to believe it unless I can see it." Well, you can't
Right.
see the end of the universe either. You know, well, they tell me that. I say, "Well, go look at the end of the
Mm,
universe."
right.
Every
No,
time you
it's true.
a
It's
camera to
true.
see another camera to see another
Right.
galaxy out there, it's moving faster than the light that's giving off. So there's probably galaxies that we haven't even seen that are out there. Well, there has to be.
Absolutely.
How can it
Absolutely.
end? How can it end?
Right.
It
No,
can't
I
end.
agree with you. And if you're lending to the theory of reincarnation, where you don't absolutely have to reincarnate on this planet or this time or space, that you can incarnate anywhere,
Right.
then like if it's is it just planet Earth that is third density, or is this
Oh no, I
does this
think there's a
apply to
lot of
different
30.
parts?
I think
Right.
it's all over the place. But you
See,
can
so we
probably
could
choose
be
another.
like anywhere.
Well, you may choose to come back here though, because this is a better testing ground. I guess I've heard
Yeah. Or someone might choose it for you. I remember my
that.
son when he was very little saying, "I'd like to come back, but not without you." And I looked at that sweet little face and went, "All right, I'll come back." Don't try to
Well,
convince a child to
that's
not.
the good thing about this whole universe. Every living thing has its choices. They have
Right.
choices.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Well,
and
choice is always a good thing. So, do you think do you think they will ever be comfortable enough to just interact with us? If it's a vibration thing and they like to scare us, do you think that
well,
if
the
you
battle.
come in this enlightened state, not fearing, could you just interact and walk up to one? Will they ever trust enough, do you think?
I'm not sure it's a matter of them trusting. I think it's a matter of them not supposed to interfere with us, not supposed to interfere with our
Okay.
karma, what we're supposed to respond to. I don't
Okay.
think they trusted us in the camp, but they never would come in and shake our hands or nothing like that.
No.
It was just so I don't think it's a matter. I think it's nothing's supposed to interfere with our choices. Nothing.
Mm.
And once
But in the same respects, we're all beings that can eventually cross paths. I mean, if you're willing, if you're letting off that frequency and you're willing and to accept this. I mean, we're seeing extraterrestrials for God's sakes. Don't they have a prime directive or something like don't interfere with the humans? Or
yeah.
because they do. I mean, we're all, I mean, people have
Well, these things they interfered with us up there. I mean, they
yeah.
did.
Yes. Yeah, see?
I don't think they're supposed to, but they did.
Right.
And we're gonna see more and more of that stuff happening. I know people
Right.
that I know is having contacts like that. Uh, they're
I'm an
not recording it.
experiencer many times, so I can totally
And you're
believe
gonna
it.
see more and more aliens, more and more UFOs, and the whole thing is gonna come to a head before too
Right.
long. I
Right.
think it's just the vibration we're heading for.
But in doing so, you would think that certain beings, like even like I say, like Bigfoot or like nobody wants to communicate with Dogman, so No. But there are other, beings that could come
Mm.
forward and communicate. Do you think they fall into that
No, I don't think they're
vibration?
supposed to. They're not
Oh,
supposed to. I don't think they're
right.
supposed to. We have to go through this third dimension, third density world to experience
Mhm.
things and to respond, learn how to respond properly to ever elevate ourselves to what we're designed to be, which is ninth
Right.
dimensional, high frequency beings.
Well, see, I asked
And
simply because I've heard the same story. According to native oral history, the Sasquatch traded with natives a long time ago. That's what
mhm.
I read similar things, so that's
Oh,
why.
yeah, they do interfere. They're not supposed to.
Right, okay, see, so
Uh,
they're like people.
yeah.
Right. Yes.
Well, and again, some of them have been diluted down,
Right.
crossbreeding with indigenous
Right.
people. There are
Okay.
some of them probably more human-like than others.
Right. So, how where can I mean, you it sounds to me like you've pretty much got this down pretty pat. Where I mean, outside of the big picture, I like when you came on and you said, "I have to ease into it, and this is me." It's kind of amusing to hear you say, "This is me easing into it with all this quantum stuff that people are going, 'What?'" S which is pretty cool. So, what is you not easing us into if this is you easing? Because this is pretty spectacular.
Oh, oh, even if it was really the big stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're easing us into, okay, this is Bigfoot, this is quantum, this is energy. What are you hoping to do next? I mean, this is a pretty, like I
Just
say, this is pretty challenging and amazing. So,
I'm learning. I learn all the time. I mean, I think I
right,
do, and I hope I do. And I study, and I hope to learn more every day that I go by. Because,
right,
like I say too,
yeah,
when you're green, you grow, and when you're ripe, you rot. So
right,
don't get
it's
ripe.
true.
Just
Right,
keep growing, keep
right,
learning, and these things open up to you, and it's just being open to it. That's a big
right.
thing. And the three biggest things is get out in the woods, don't have fear, know who you are as a
Don't have
human,
fear, right.
and
Do you
call it
plan on going back? Do you ever go back
to where.
to to your favorite spots where you can interact with these guys? Any
Oh, you
plans to
mean the
go back?
Sierra camp?
Yeah.
I've been asked to by several. Well, people ask me all the time, but I pretty much don't. Plus, after David Paulides, who, by the way, he wrote the foreword of my latest book, the
Right.
411 guy, and he and I and his filmer and Scott Nelson, the cryptolinguist, all went up there in 2018,
Oh,
4 years ago, and he did a filming on that 411 missing the hunted, and
yes, which is a whole story in itself.
yeah, and I got about 15 minutes on that DVD that he made, and at our camp, and he's the only one I've ever taken up there, really. But while we were up there, and we got hauled in by horses and mules because there's so much equipment, all had to set up separate tents because the shelter's down now, and
Right.
which is fine. The camp's still there; you can still go there. Uh,
Right.
but they depicted that light rod that went floating by my tent up there,
Right.
and he did a real good job of reproducing that. That happened 2 years earlier in 2016,
Right.
and we witnessed that for quite a while
And what
till
do
it
you
went out
what
of
do you think
sight.
that was? Was it affiliated?
It's a form of energy.
Right.
That's all orbs are. It wasn't
Yes.
like a round orb, though. It was just
Yes.
like a
Right.
bolt, but it wasn't shooting. It was just floating through the trees.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you do with that? Where do you just look at it and you got your
I've
jaws
seen
dropped?
rods. They're pretty cool, you
Yeah,
know.
but what are they all about? I think they have intelligence. I had an email today from a guy who said he's seen orbs, wants to know what to do about it, and
Right.
what do I tell him? I don't know. I've seen
I
a lot of
know.
orbs.
Right.
They followed the Johnson brothers around up there. That's written. Albert wrote about that in his book. These
Right.
orbs were right above their head, following around.
Yes.
But I think they're little sneaky little things that are trying to get information. They don't talk or make sounds. They just
Right. Are you eavesdropping? Right. No. I
So,
find it, yeah, I find it fascinating, that you can go back up so many years later even, and, from the '70s up to, like, 2018, and we
mm.
did you experience some of the same things, the sounds, the
Not in 2018, no. The last
wow,
time I experienced the sound we did in 2016 when we see the light and heard some wood
okay.
knocks, but,
That's not
uh,
substantial. Yeah.
it's something, but, to me, it's
Mhm.
not what or it could be, 'cause they're up
Right.
things are up there, and, so it's a strange place, but there's a lot of strange places around this world that people go to, things
Yes.
happen. Uh, if I go up there
Yes.
again, I don't know that I will, you know? I'm in my
Right.
80s now, and, I don't know why I would. Uh, I don't
It's
need
a
to.
long hike in for sure.
Well, I wouldn't be walking. That'd be
Right. Drop right
riding
in
a
there.
horse, but you gotta be a good
Right.
horse.
Right.
I mean, a real good horse, because you can have some problems on that trail,
Right.
and, these people are trying to do a documentary on me now, want me to take them up there, and it's just, I don't think they realize what it's like, you gotta
Right.
you tell people you ask people, "Can you ride a horse?" They say, "Sure." They ride one of those 25-cent horses in a mall or something.
Right. It's like,
They stay
no,
on
no,
those.
it's not a pony ride, guys.
Yeah, I
Right.
did that one time. I had to get the manager to unplug it.
Right.
But those
Right.
things are but no,
No.
I mean, some people think they ride because they can sit on a horse, but you gotta be able to help the horse. You gotta be able to know
Right.
what the horse is doing and how it's trying to do what and work with it, because you're
Right.
live weight on the horse, and live weight can be nice on a horse if you know how to use it. And when
Right.
they go up a hill, I just let the reins go, let them have their own nose and grab a hold of the mane, their
Right. You
mane.
almost have to shift with them as well, right? So you're not
You do, you
resisting.
pretty much do that automatically, yeah. Become
Yeah.
one with the horse, that's why I say you gotta become
Right.
one with the horse.
Right. Hey, I
When
learned
you're going
that
down these
teetering
steep
on the
places
side of a cliff with one.
and when
So
you're going down these steep places, you put your boots between their ears and you hold
right.
on their tail.
Great. I'll have to remember that. Ron said, "Do what?"
There's some steep spots, some treachery spots up there really that people
Right.
get hurt, so,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, what does David think about, because he did all these documentaries, and there has been that theory that Bigfoot has been responsible for some of those disappearances. I'm always saying portal forever. No, man, somebody
Well,
just went.
yeah, he tries to stay neutral on that. He doesn't. I know what he
Yes.
thinks, but I won't speak for him. He's
Right.
a good man. He's with me all the way on this thing. He
Right.
wrote the forward, like I said, wrote the forward to this book, and yeah,
Yes. Right. Yeah, let me put it
this
back
is
up for
my
you. There we go.
manager's cop. Oh, there it is. Yeah,
There we go.
I haven't
Yeah.
got one of. I haven't got one of those yet.
Yeah.
I got I've got this one here, which is the copy I had made just to prove it.
Right.
And a couple
That's
little changes.
great.
I sold the first 50 of them that I had printed out at Georgia conference a week or so ago,
Which is
and
fantastic. The
yeah,
Georgia's a
but
pretty active Bigfoot area. I have friends who live
but
way up in a mountain in Georgia, and they hear
uh
things.
yeah, David Bacara and his wife have a museum down there in Cherry Log, and I guess they got.
Right.
I've never been there, but it's just south of where we were in Dillard, Georgia. This conference. It was good though. It was cool. It was good meet. Then I went from
Right.
there over to the LBL with these guys to go into the land between the
Right.
lakes to hopefully see the dog man. They wanted me to see one. I said, "Well, we don't have any fear, and I've already told you guys you're gonna have fear. You're probably not gonna see one." Well,
Hopefully,
something.
having those words in the same sentence, hopefully see a dog man. I don't know. I don't know if I share that sentiment.
Well, they did have something happen up there,
Okay.
but
Okay. So what is your take on the dog man? What do you think it is?
well, it's
Where
something
does
that's
it come
been
from?
made by something created it from probably a wolf. You know, gave it things
Right.
to see. but
That's
I don't know if they talk. I don't know enough about them to really talk about it. I'll tell you what Martin who does is Martin Groves. He's written a couple books. He's a deputy that has encountered them up there,
oh, I'd love to. I'd love to talk
and
to him. That's
yeah,
phenomenal. But
he's
you
got a
know,
book out. He got several books out actually. The Dog Man is a big deal down in that country because a lot of people are seeing them. That whole big deal
yes,
back here, all the way back here in the east like this. I didn't had no idea when I lived on the West Coast that the Dog Man was something.
right,
Move out here and everybody talking about the Dog Man.
yeah.
Uh,
Well,
they're like a big
w-
Bigfoot, except they're mostly aggressive. That's what I understand.
right.
That's, of course, they look mean. They look malicious.
Honestly, I saw a video um on one of these shows, where they show these videos and say, is this a thing? Isn't it? And the person talks about the experience. And one of them was a guy who went just like what I was saying earlier. They go in and they open, goes opens his curtains. He sees something outside, and there's like almost high up, like a window is way up, kitchen window, and they were way up off the ground. And this thing, which looked like a wolf, a really large wolf, just was looking right in the window.
Oh,
How do you recover from something like that? I don't think I would. Just saying.
hope you got some good dog bones.
Oh my God. Yeah. See, there's just some things that are like, I actually worked with a family one time and they claimed that they had, well, they claimed there was an experience where their son was just out. I call it watering the dog, but just taking the dog out to do its business. And then all of a sudden the dog started like he wouldn't settle. And so he turns around and the son's an adult and looks up and there was this large being with what looked like a snout and he just red eyes and it just growled and he grabbed the dog, hightailed it back into the house, slammed the door, and he said all he could hear is whatever it was sniffing the top of the door frame from the
Mm,
outside, and it
mm.
circled for a while. Okay, see?
That could be concerning. Yeah,
Okay, well, I think you're concerning. I think apartment sounds good about that point. Way up,
they're scared out of your gorge.
right? But so yes, I agree with you. There are things out there that we definitely have no clue as to, what they are, where they come from. Um, I mean, if you can come through portals and if you or dimensionally with just a thought, these things you're never gonna just land one. No way, they're
Mm.
just too quick.
Well, I don't. I think they got to let themselves be known. I don't think you're gonna find them by walking around the wood, beating on trees or whooping at them or something like that. That might
Right.
get their attention if they're around, but it's not going to do what needs to be done if you're really wanting to learn more about them. But some
Right.
people think they got to shoot them, and they're out there with the guns. And
Yeah, I don't like
but
that unless they're
that's
ready to
you know,
try to tear your arm off.
Daniel Boone claimed he shot one.
Really?
Hmm. In
Really?
his it's in his story. Actually, I got his book over here. I wrote the forward for his book. It's uh,
Oh, just
anyway.
wing it. Just wing
Oh,
it. That's okay. We won't
well,
hold you to the
yeah.
time.
Well, him and his son was out hunting. Daniel Boone and his son, and heard his son shoot. So he thought we must have something. So he went over there, and this Bigfoot had his son holding him, threw him down to the ground. His son claimed he had shot the thing, but didn't do anything. And Daniel Boone shot it, but shot it in the head, and it killed it. Supposedly, this is a story. He wanted to know why his son's bullet didn't kill it, because his son shot in the chest. They had a heavy armor, like a
Right.
double heavy chest. The bullet wouldn't penetrate. So what I tell people, if you got to shoot at something, shoot it in the head,
Right.
because uh,
Yes.
there's
Wow.
people that they won't go out in the woods up there, and especially that LBL without a, you're not supposed to have a gun in there in that national park. But
It's to me, it's an incredible story. I love hearing when they go that far back. It just lends credence to the fact that things have been happening in our history for so long, and even
Uh-huh.
our prehistory, for with respect to our generation or my grandparents, or like the stories that my grandparents would even tell, and I thought to myself, that's pretty brave to say things like that, because that's one of those things that is like supposed to be a family secret. You don't talk about things like that, certain generations. So I think we're the generation, that maybe has to take it to that next level.
I hope so. I mean, my generation's over with. Listen,
Right.
has to be
No, but
somebody following
you've
up on this.
you've
Uh,
done really well. Like, I think, your books are always going to be there. Right? Your research, your information, it's always going to be there for people to see long after you're gone, and I hope that's a really long time, because I think that if you could, come up with all of this, I'm really excited to see what else you'll come up with,
mm.
so
Well, it's nice of you to say that. So I hope I do, because there's
right,
so many things that we need to know. But the only way you're going to know everything is when you really pass on from this embodiment.
right,
You don't
right.
have any questions at all. Then
Mm.
everything's known because you'll be part of the collective. In Star Trek.
Right, part of the collective. Walk around saying "swell" all the time. So, and putting it out there. I think it's great that people are waking up, and just from the stuff, I don't spend a lot of time on social media, but I am noticing, just from what people are posting and some of the things that they're saying, that there's this willingness to believe, because I think they just want real answers. I think they want to also be taken outside the box for a while, because it's not always fun being in the box. Like, we're very, like I say, conditioned. Some people are going through some really difficult times. So it's nice that they want to step out of the box and maybe consider that the obscure isn't so obscure after all.
Mhm. And don't be a victim. It's easy to become a victim and
Right.
think that like something's working against you all the time. Well,
Right.
the guy said, "Well, if I had bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all." Well,
Oh, I know
you know,
somebody's exactly like that. And I'm just like, stop it, because you just attract that
yes,
stuff to you,
you
you
do.
know?
You attract whatever you put out. Your words are very, very important,
Right. Well,
and
they're
that's
like
great.
spell casting, right? Just putting out
Mm.
words. Like, what do you draw to yourself?
I gotta tell people, say what you want, not what you don't want.
Right.
Yeah. You say, "Oh, I
Right.
feel so sick today." Well, I shouldn't even have said that. No
Right.
matter what, when people ask me how I am, I say, "I'm okay. I'm good. Thank you very much for asking."
Right. And you have to. I've talked myself out
Well,
of
and you know
being
what?
sick.
I am okay all the time,
Right.
except for my, well, never mind.
All right. Is that a whole other show? So it's a whole other type of show. So tell us all, where can everybody get your books, and what do you have coming up next? Do you have any more conferences? What's
Yeah,
next
I
for
do.
Ron?
Let's see, I got a book signing in, Hamlet, on the middle of April, I think it is, yeah. Then I got
Right.
let me look at my calendar here. I got several all summer long. Last year, I had a couple every month just about. I gotta be in, New Jersey sometime this year. One in
Wow.
California in June, and
Right.
Washington and Oregon too. Uh, well, anyway, I got all
Okay.
I just had my
I just want you
website
to
redone.
advertise yourself, that's all.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I just had my website redone, and he's supposed to give me a link so I can get into it myself, so I can put my
Oh,
event
well,
so I put
I
my
have it
event
right up here. There we go.
well, but I don't
What
well,
they can find
that's
all the
your
information on your, hold on, let me pull mine off. There.
mine is, ronmorehead.com.
Yes, that's exactly, it's scrolling along the bottom. It has been
There
the
it is,
whole
yeah.
time. But here's what I'll
Yeah,
do. I'm gonna
that's where you
go
order
right
books.
here, dot ron.com. Why don't I do it this way as well? And that's gonna go. across 8 different platforms. And we are on Roku TV as well, live tonight, just so you know.
I did
So
not know that. I put my
we
hat
are
on.
on Roku. Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't have my
I
hat.
know.
I
No, but
left
all
it.
the shenanigans we've been getting into, everybody on Roku has been seeing it. So you see?
All my stuff, my CDs and my are available. All this is available for downloading too. You don't have to order the paperback if you don't want it. The 3
Excellent.
books of paperbacks. My first one's the Voices in the Wilderness, which that desk back there,
Excellent.
and
So
that's my
basically
chronicle. My chronicle.
your website is
And in
basically
it,
the one-stop shop for everything.
yeah, as far
I
as
like that.
what I have, yeah.
Yes.
And you can get the hard copy CDs if you order them through thebigfootstore.com. I was associated with them. They got my inventory there. Some of the other places have my inventory too. But they sort them as they need them, and I can't tell you how many of those there are off the cuff. But anyway, books basically ordered through Amazon or KDP. You know,
Uh, are they available on Kindle? Jen is
yes,
asking.
it's
There you
supposed to
go.
be. Again, I just had my website done, so if they did what everything else asked them to do, I said I got to have it up for this convention I'm going to, which was last weekend,
No,
and
this is good. And
so
it's all
I
in the
hope.
show description as well. So I think also to the link to Amazon and also your website, everything will be there so they can find everything. There she
Uh,
goes, fabulous. Oh, well, I am really thrilled that you came on the show tonight. And I know Amelia was hoping to be here, but she's under the weather. So
mm,
um
ah, say what you want, know what you want.
aha, there you go, Bubbles. Are you listening?
How do you stop it though if you got it? I mean,
Right.
somebody with
Ex
COVID comes up and kisses you, you know you're in trouble.
I know. I know. Poor girl has just been fighting it this year. So it's like, okay,
Uh,
spring is around the
yeah,
corner, but we have to get through all that those nasty sprinkles too. So, but
yeah.
I don't
I've
know.
had some
Knock on wood,
allergies.
I've been good.
I've had some allergies when I was down in the south, out of Georgia. Uh,
Right.
just a lot of things were blooming more here there than here, and I haven't had allergies in ages, so I must be thinking too negatively about something.
I know.
Negatively.
It's your vibes. It's all the vibration and frequency.
It is. That's
See,
so true. Yeah.
I
But
believe
you are.
it.
I am healthy. I haven't been sick as far as that goes. Ages.
Right.
So.
Yeah, knock on wood. I've been pretty good too. So I hope it
Uh,
just doesn't bite me now that
well,
I've said
you,
that.
you're a happy. You're a happy person. You smile and you laugh, and I think that's important too. You know,
Yeah, I think so.
feed yourself with good stuff. Feed yourself with good vibes, good funny things, or just interesting things. Don't
Right.
watch so much of this bullshit on the news.
No, no. Meditation, love and light,
Stuff,
high vibes. That's always
stuff,
me.
stuff happens like that shit. Yeah, boy.
You have to. You
Yeah.
have to.
Well,
What you put out there comes back to you.
there you go. That's why if you think too much about a dog brand, you're going to see one. You know, careful.
I know. See, now I just want to go out there and just see what
Show 'em
comes.
who's boss. Show 'em who's boss.
I will. I like obscure things though. If somebody says to me, "Oh, I saw a dragon." I want a dragon. Who doesn't want a dragon? you know.
Yeah.
And then the weirdest thing is, people, they talk about gargoyles and stuff like that. And my sister says to me, who claims to not have an intuitive bone in her body, but I don't believe her. She says, I had this dream where I was at your house and this gargoyle jumped on my back. I'm like, okay, enough with the gargoyle. That's ridiculous. So I'm just going to start paying more attention. I
Uh,
need a pair of those funky glasses that they had in World War, what was it, World War One or two, where they could see all these
oh.
crazy things. Yeah. Yeah. I'm starting to wonder. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was such a
I
pleasure.
I appreciate you having me on. I just enjoy being with you. You're an enlightening person, and we're getting more enlightened all the time. Yeah.
Aw,
And,
thank you. Thank you.
you're,
Well, I
you're
won't let you
you're
down. I
good.
will continue my journey to enlightenment. And if I come across anything weird, I'm going to email you and say, okay. You know?
Well, thank you,
Mm,
Michelle. I appreciate that. Yeah. But
you're
yeah, if
very
there's
welcome.
good ones out there, they get on the right frequency with you. Take advantage of it. Let them interfere with you.
Yeah,
That's
easier said than done. Okay, Ron said. No, we have a family who's got like 100-acre property, and it's all wooded, and it butts up against 20,000 acres of provincial park, up in Canada. And we know they're there. There have been sightings and such. We had a caretaker on there who was having experiences in the wee hours of the morning with things tapping. Goes, I think somebody was chopping wood. No, I don't think so. But I don't want to get into it.
well, you
It's
got to
real
wonder too.
superstitious.
Native lore says they live in trees, and the pop that I had in 2011, last time I really had some Bigfoot stuff going on up there, just like a gunshot going off, and right outside the little tent I had, and it was daylight. I went out there. At the time, and I wrote about this in my book, Voice of the Wilderness, I thought it was a wood knock. But now that I've learned about energy and energy transfer and trees, how important trees are to these things over the years, I got a chapter about trees in there, my new book
Right.
too. It might have been their energy. This is going to sound very weird, so this is where we get off the wagon.
Right,
It
that's
could have
okay.
been, it could have been their energy coming out of the tree. If
Okay.
they live
But
in
the tree's a
trees,
living it's a living thing, it could be.
well, native lore says they live in trees. A lot of native lore has that. And I've had two people, at least three, say they saw them come out of a tree or go into a tree and never come out. And that's, of course, then you hear people say, well, he jumped out of a tree or they came out of a tree. Came out from behind the tree, they'll say, because they can't fathom
Right.
something being in the tree because it's just energy until it pops out. That's a
Right. No, I don't doubt
that's
that. I believe
well,
energy can attach to energy, and trees are a living thing. They
yes,
communicate through the root
yes.
system. They are definitely
Hmm.
easy to attach to. It's an
Yep.
age-old story. Why couldn't they? I could see
They
them.
really dislike us cutting all the trees down.
Right. See? I love it. I love it. I can see that. I mean, if they're, the type of sentient being that really connects with energy, it would only make sense because the trees are just phenomenal energy. They're great for grounding as well. And elementals get very ornery if their energy and their trees aren't right. So I
Mhm.
wonder if there's an exchange of energy that actually takes place, you know?
I
I
can
know
agree with
it's a whole other show,
I
Ron.
I, I don't put anything outside the limits now. Just gotta consider it and see if other reports are what puts it all together. It's the
Right.
dots that make a picture, and
Yes.
that's what I've been doing with my life is trying to fill in the dots and draw lines
Right.
between them
Well,
that make
I
sense.
think you're on the right track for
Well,
sure.
thank you. Thank
You're
you, Michelle. I
welcome. You
appreciate
are
this.
welcome. And we're going to have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, give me
Maybe
a
we'll
couple of
get into
years.
some really deep stuff,
Well,
right?
this probably gets pretty deep.
I love it. No, I love it.
Yeah.
I think we should definitely do that. See,
Well, by the
what-
time 2 years rolls around, we'll all know everything anyway, probably.
right.
I mean,
I think we
there's
could
gonna be
have,
a lot happen between now and 2027, I think.
I think we're in for one
A
heck
lot of
of a wild
a
ride.
lot of eye-opening, yes, eye-opening stuff. It's a good time to be alive,
Yes.
in my
Yes.
opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard that a lot. And I see the opposite right now with people. I think we all need to believe it. People need to believe it. And I
Mhm.
think you have to think outside of the box to realize what those good things are. It's you don't see it when you have tunnel vision. But if you
Right.
really put it out there and you just look around at the wondrous things that are starting to unfold, I think it's going to be a wild ride.
Yep, yep, we're lucky people.
I
We're
think
lucky
so.
to
We'll
be
meet up
we're
again in a
lucky
year and we'll compare war
we're
stories.
we're very fortunate to be humans, and be made in the dimension that we're made in, to
Right.
experience all the lives and all the stuff that we're experiencing.
Right. So keep elevating your energy, keep the frequency going, and manifest your life and keep evolving. Very important.
Learn to meditate.
I
Be
like
still.
meditating.
Yeah.
Binaural beats can help with that. Just if you have a hard time going under, I hear a lot of people say, I have a hard time calming my mind. Binaural beats, listening to different frequencies.
Yeah, we do. I do that. I got different
Yeah.
hertz, different frequencies that we listen to when we're
Hmm.
meditating. Very
Yeah.
important.
They have a DMT frequency apparently. That's pretty wild. Boy, yeah, that's a good one. People find that one and use it. They actually have it. It's called a DMT frequency. And it's just, I know. I almost had a nap and I woke up with this lady talking to me in like real time. I was like, not ready for that. I'm pretty sure I was trying to have a nap. So yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. So
Well, thank you again, and
you're
we'll be
welcome.
looking forward to
I will
touching
send you
base with
some
you
links.
again. Okay,
Yes.
thank
Yes.
and read. I should have had that book here, the one that Daniel Boone in it, because that's pretty good.
That's okay.
Pretty good,
You can
good
always
read.
send it to me if you find it. Just send me the title. I would
Well,
definitely
it's
be
almost from
into
arm's
that.
length over here. I have to get up to go get it.
No, don't do that. You could just send it whenever. Just email it or whatever. I'll send you some links. And if you happen to find it, you can give me the title. And if you don't happen to find it, that's okay. We can
I should
converge
know the
again at
title
some
right
point.
now. It's
Oh,
oh well.
that's okay. Don't worry about
All right,
it.
all
Anyway,
right.
thank you very much for joining me. And I will be in touch.
Okay. Good night, Michelle.
Good night. Good night, Ron. Have a great weekend. Oh, he's so delightful. Honestly, I love it. And you guys have been awesome as well, just chiming in with all these great comments of yours. And I really missed a lot of good comments tonight, but I just like to sort of keep up with the guests. And we had so much fun with him, didn't we? But we have come to the end of another, I say, fantastic segment. Aside from getting into that crazy technical difficulty, I didn't really appreciate that too much. But anyway, remember that when you're listening to the archive, it is there. So, guys, big thank you to Folgers Coffee, who sponsored tonight's show and every night's show. Big thank you to Ron Morehead, he's just a lot of fun and he's just so genuinely kind and always a pleasure to spend time with him. So big thank you to him. Thank you to Justin Snicker for his intro. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis for all the banners and the logos. And guys, remember, go and check out the Halifax Paranormal Symposium, Contact and Disclosure Symposium, which is going to be in Toronto, and Halifax is Halifax. It's two great Canadian events, and they're both going to be incredible. And when you go to the website, you'll be able to find out who all the guest speakers are. I will be showing them as we get closer, of course. So, tomorrow night, tomorrow night is going to be a lot of fun. We welcome for the very first time my very dear friend, and she's also a United Public Radio Network host here at the show as well, Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. And her show is Spirit Switchboard. She's on Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be just hanging out and talking anything paranormal, high strangeness. She's so much fun. Just be prepared for a whole lot of laughs and a lot of information. Really hoping Amelia can make it because she needs some laughs. She's been under the weather too long. We need to get her here laughing is what we all need. So until then, guys, have a good night. Thank you all for being in the chat room. You just make it that much more fun. Good night.